Hi, I'm Cherie Ba. Welcome to the first of a 5-part series of webinars on business continuity and recovery. Esri's business team is hosting this series to share resources and workflows that can help your organization leverage location intelligence to overcome the unprecedented business challenges experienced during COVID-19. We hope to see you in the next webinars as well. Normalize Business During Volatile Times is being recorded and will be made available to you to watch again and share with colleagues. We will make the recording available to you within a few hours following this webinar. As time permits, we will answer questions at the end of the webinar. Please enter your questions in the question dialog box shown here. You can enter questions at any time during the webinar. We will share a lot of resources with you today. For later reference, we've uploaded a PDF document located in the console of this session for you to download. Just check the handout section. This document includes links to materials and resources that will be covered in the webinar shortly. Joining me today is Gary Sankery, Lead for Retail Industry Strategy, and John Hendrickson, Solution Engineer for Manufacturing and Supply Network. As I've mentioned, today's agenda is packed, so let's jump right in. Allow me to introduce you to my colleague, Gary Sankery.
Thank you, Cherie. So over the last few weeks and months here at Esri, we've had the opportunity to work with organizations from across the business spectrum to support their efforts for business continuity as they stabilize operations and begin to build their strategies to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Location intelligence has a key role to play in business continuity and recovery, and in every organization, whether public or private, and in whatever state of this crisis they find themselves in today, can benefit from geography. They can build their business resilience efforts more effectively, analyze their current operations gaps and capacities, and understand where business is happening and where they can keep that business up and running. Here at Esri, we focused our efforts really in 4 key areas: workforce capacity, facility status, business recovery, and supply network resilience. What we're going to see through this webinar is that there's a number of data sets and templates that our customers and partners are using to deliver specific insight and inform decisions across all of their different business activities. And using Arcgis, they're able to host and share the most up-to-date information available to keep their internal and external stakeholders appraised of business conditions at the market and facility level. Now, the applications that we're going to talk about that are supporting location intelligence across the enterprise, they can be deployed as standalone, or they can be deployed all together. And the goal really is to enable information to flow across the entire organization seamlessly. So as I mentioned before, we've really had a great opportunity to work with a number of different business types across all the different spectrum of businesses that are out there. I happen to be in the retail space, and I'd really like to highlight one of our customers, Bass Pro Shops. As a part of the handout that you'll see here, there'll be a link where you can go out and see a Where Next article that was just published last week about the efforts that Bass Pro has done to really assess what their situation is. Bass Pro, their chief security officer, Jason Jackson, who he was not unfamiliar with Esri. He worked with us at another customer. When he arrived at Bass Pro, and as the COVID pandemic began to hit, he was able to quickly stand up a geographic dashboard showing all of the Bass Pro locations, and he was able to show on that dashboard through symbology what the current status is, what stores were open, what stores were closed, what stores were operating under certain restrictions or with limited capacity. And I think the quote where he said, we needed to see data differently, other than just looking at it on a spreadsheet or through a series of emails. smart maps paint a truer picture of what we were facing. And he talked about, and it's in the article, being able to look at the map and see actually they have locations that were green, they had locations that were still up and running. It really kind of helped to ease some of the help them to understand what's going on and ease some of the angst. As he said it best, being able to understand at a time of chaos and complexity helps to calm the situation. And not only to be able to communicate outwards and upwards, but to just have a better sense of what's happening. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to see in today's session, normalizing business in volatile times. I am not going to reiterate the impact of the pandemic. I think we've all seen and read a lot about that. But I do want to recognize that the way this pandemic is impacting business is local, highly variable, and volatile. The information and data about confirmed cases, about how communities are responding, are all impacting local businesses, and they were going to continue to impact these businesses for a long time to come. And we know that there's a lot of variation out there across markets, across communities, whether it's rural or it's urban. We know that in some communities that seemingly have identical demographic and geographic attributes are affected in different ways. And we also have seen local governments reacting differently across different jurisdictions on how they react to the pandemic. And those restrictions and all of that data is really making really presenting some enormous challenges for businesses. As leaders, business leaders need to understand precise local conditions, because that's what they're going to use to make strategic decisions necessary to support their existing businesses and to ensure that the proper resources are allocated to the right location efficiently, and all at the same time while working to protect the health and safety of their teams and their customers. So our goal today is to show you the data and applications that our customers are deploying, and to understand and communicate the impact of COVID-19 in the communities where they operate. We're going to focus on some of the resources that are available from Esri about COVID-19. We'll show you how to get to those quickly, and these are resources that you can use with your own internal tools. I want to point out, if you have not been to our web pages recently, I would encourage you to do so. John will show you how to get there. They are being updated very regularly. So if you were only there a few days ago, the information will have changed. There might be new things that are available to you. I encourage you to go visit that pretty often, actually. We're going to walk through a dynamic map using Esri dashboards to show how customers are able to visualize the location and status of their facilities. We're going to have some examples of how we're overlaying COVID-19 data with some of the local jurisdictions and their restrictions on locations, all to be able to support decision-making about opening, about status of stores. And then we're going to show you some of the ways that we can share that data throughout the enterprise. So now we're going to have John take over.
Thanks. First thing we'll do is navigate to the Esri.com homepage, which is where we can find our resources. If we see right here at the top, we've got this option to get resources. This will take us to that main homepage around the COVID-19. If we navigate through here, you'll start to see different sections highlighting how you could manage the crisis and maintain continuity. You'll see highlighted content such as the Johns Hopkins dashboard, the IHME projected peaks from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, various types of other data or applications like infographics, and even galleries from the global response that we've seen using the technology. Along the top, we've also got other resources that you can navigate to specifically for the business continuity and recovery patterns. In here, we'll again highlight how you can use the technology to protect, stabilize, and reestablish your business across multiple patterns such as workforce capacity, facility status, business recovery, supply network resilience, and then communication of that information through various hubs. Those will also be highlighted in our webinars in this series. If you can find more information about those here. Additionally, where you probably want to focus a lot of your time as you're curating content and maps to be shared through your organization. This resources tab in the top right can take you to a great place to start to discover new information. And as Gary said, this is being updated regularly. On this page, we'll highlight different data sets, applications and dashboards, solutions and training being made available, and various articles or white papers as they're released. If we go back up to the top and look at specifically the data set section, I'll click that option and it will take us to a library where we can start to see data sets that are published for you to use inside of your applications. We'll highlight some of the ways people are using those, and we'll show you some of the new data sets that are recently available. Things like the National Governors Association's COVID-19 state and territory actions. That is very valuable information to be used, and we'll look at that later on. Other things like Blue Dot social distancing metrics, or the Johns Hopkins Center for Civic Impact COVID counties-based statistics. This is a great place to continue to check for resources. From here, you can start to really do a lot of powerful things. What you're most familiar with right now is probably seeing the Johns Hopkins University dashboard. This is a great place to start to understand and see how the cases are being broken down across the world. We can look at it from a cumulative confirmed cases perspective, or get a better refined look at how the active case rates are looking across the globe. This is valuable content people want to start to use. And the ways that we're seeing our customers do that are through a few things. One way would be through our Arcgis Solutions. It's a place where we make solutions available specific to the COVID response, things like business continuity or testing sites, workflows, or recovery metrics. But there's also our kind of standard industry-related solutions available for you to look at. For example, we have this business industry where there are a couple solutions related to corporate security and market development. And market development might be one that we would want to look at today. There's details for each of those for you to understand the purpose and the reason for how to use them, the requirements and technical pieces that go into these, and some help documentation on how to deploy these. This one in particular starts off with a Market Explorer dashboard. This can be used during the crisis times or non-crisis times for us to really understand the landscape of our business. We can very quickly see and understand where all of our locations are. We have them listed out here in the right with various details that are configured for each location. We understand key metrics that might be important to us, such as average daily sales, current year revenue, or the rolling 12-month sales. We also know how many locations are in the map, and if we track information like competitors, we understand that as well. We can navigate this through business geographies, such as regions, subregions, or even site-specific. As I start to click and interact with those, the map will be updated to reflect what I've selected. I can zoom in, I can see that at a greater detail, and I begin to select this information to really understand it more. I can link out to an additional dashboard as well to give me more information, and that would look something like this. This one is specific at showing us sales performance across this network of locations. I can see at again, a holistic level to understand what my current year revenue may be. I can see a list of all those locations, and I can break down those numbers into different categories, such as apparel, electronics, or food. If I again select a specific location, the map will update, zoom into that location, and my charts and metrics will be updated to reflect the specific details for that site as well. This is a great starting point for you to start to get into. But how do we start to use this now for what we want to build? Well, the first thing is we can use that deployable solution on the site that I showed earlier, or we can start with a spreadsheet of information, which is typically where people have. I have a set of business locations that I want to map, and I can drag that into the map and have that done for me really quickly. I've got information in that table that I want to be able to use, and perhaps I want to understand what the breakdown is of these locations by status. I'll select that as a dropdown, and the smart netting capabilities will start to show us what those are across the map. All my locations are closed right now, so it's going to show me everything in the one color. I can change my base map for what meets my needs, update that to what looks better for me, and I'll choose something like the light gray. Now I really want to use that library of content that we looked at earlier to start to build a specific information product for us to use. And I'm going to do that by searching for layers. I can search for layers inside of my own organization, or I could start to search for layers inside of the Living Atlas or ArcGIS Online if we're interested in what we were looking at earlier. By using the keyword COVID-19, I can start to discover and add content to this map, and I'll do that right now. So if I search for here, you'll see right away I'm presented with content I might be looking for. In this case, I want to add the Johns Hopkins information, and let's say I was interested in that NGA content as well. I'll tweak my search and I'll add that to my map. This will start to show up on the map where I can go and configure this in more detail. Let's say I get to my final curated map where I have information from the various sources that we've talked about. I'm showing my locations based on their status, now with a little more detail in terms of open, modified hours, or closed. I've got my COVID-19 cases represented at the county level, showing me the size and amount based on the dots. And then I can start to turn on the different information that we've seen already. I've got that NGA layer that I was looking at earlier, and it will start to show up, and I've updated the symbology to tell me where the states are allowed to be open, operating completely, or closed as well. And I may also be interested in additional content like the NEMA, National Emergency Management Association measures that show me similar information about stay-at-home lifted, whether it's completely lifted, partial, or open for business, essentially. I can also go in there and configure the pop-ups so that it represents that information for us to use later on. Once I have this curated in an area where I want to begin to share this across my organization, I can do that through the share option. I'll go in here and create this web application, either leveraging the standard configurable templates or something like an ArcGIS dashboard. And I could build that specific to my case, or maybe I want to blend the experience we saw earlier within a Market Explorer, but turn it into a more COVID-specific information product. And I've done that here. I've gone in, used that web map that we just created and curated. I've added to it the various layers and content that are important to me, and I've updated and configured various lists on that content. So if I work my way across, I've made my drop downs here to be able to select states so I can get an idea of really focus in on what I'm interested in. Maybe I'm interested in focusing in on Georgia. I'll select that from my drop down, and my business locations that I've input into the system, as well as the information on whether it's open, modified hours, closed, will all be updated. I can see we have one location that is closed in that area. I can see also on the left-hand side here, the details from that NEMA layer that we looked at earlier. So I can very quickly use this to help in my decision-making process. I've also added information related to the county trends related to COVID-19 along the bottom of the charts. I can see and understand the aggregated count of counties in the state that may be in a controlled phase, an in phase, an epidemic phase, or still spreading phase related to the COVID itself. I can also get an idea of the count of counties that have seen a number of days without new cases. What we'd really like to see is the high mark over here be on the right-hand side. That would tell us that we've seen a lot of consecutive days where there haven't been new cases. But for right now, we see that there are still a lot of counties in this area that have a lot of new cases as of today. We can use this information in our decision-making process. I still also got those same high-level metrics for me to be able to understand in this area how much my daily sales, my current revenue might be for me to use as well. I can interact with this map still, click on that location and get some more information as well. We can link out to infographics. So infographics at the state level will give us an idea of what's happening in that state or give us some valuable information around the landscape of the COVID cases and planning is going on. And we can use these to interact and understand very important metrics. That can also happen at the county level. So this business location is in a specific county, and we can understand at a very local level key variables and key characteristics for us in our decision-making process. Once I have this all curated and created, I can share this across my organization, or I can share this with my stakeholders for them to be informed and make decisions on. And I'll pass that back to you now, Terry.
Thank you, John. Okay, so let's All right, so just a quick recap to come back. What John walked you through was all of our an overview of our COVID-19 resources. These are really easy to get to, once again, from Esri.com. You can navigate your way there, and I can't reiterate enough that it's worth checking that every few days because it is constantly being updated and refreshed. When you get the PDF, a lot of this will be in there, but these are just some of the resources that were mentioned today. We talked about the hub, our industry-specific configurations. You can reach that if depending on what your specific needs are. There are applications ready for those. Our business decision support applications like Market Explorer, our sales performance dashboards, all of those are accessible, and we can help you to get those up and running. So with that, I'm going to hand it to my colleague, Cherie. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gary and John. Nice info there. So to learn more about business continuity and recovery resources and workflows available to your organization, please follow the link provided on this slide. It will take you to our business continuity and recovery overview page. Also, at this time, I just want to make a quick reminder to just input your questions that you have into the chat box or into the question box. We'll keep it open. Please also take time to review the next webinar in this series, Assess Workforce Capacity and Facility Readiness. To register for the webinar, please also follow the link located on our Business Continuity and Recovery Overview page. And with that, we will now take questions. So I'll look for the first question here, Gary and John. How often is the COVID-19 confirmed infection rate updated on Esri's website?
So, John, I believe that happens every day as the reports come in. They're fed through the Johns Hopkins dashboard. That source data is updated at least daily by jurisdiction.
If you stay consistent in looking at the resources online, each of them have item details page for you to see when they've last updated as well.
Oh, great.
Perfect. And then how much configuration is needed to deploy the dashboards?
Yeah, so we went through a couple of options today. You can obviously start with some of the solutions that we've made available through the Arcgis Solutions page. They're a great starting point. Everything that is deployed there has a web map that you could then add additional content to, and that's one option. So using something like the Market Explorer as a base framework, loading your data into that, and then adding the COVID-specific resources to that dashboard. What we showed more on the webinar today was starting with a spreadsheet. So you can start with just a spreadsheet of information, enable that with location, and then I'll begin to add the COVID content to that web map. And then we configured the dashboard by adding a few widgets and setting a couple actions. It does not take too much to get started.
Great. I'm just looking for another question here. Okay, here's one. Where is the governor decision-making dashboard located?
So I think we're referring to the content that we looked at today on the main page. So that's a layer in there that you could use inside of your dashboard. It's available from, as we showed today, going to that Esri.com and then going to the resources page to discover that. There's probably multiple dashboards leveraging that content, and you can use that in your own as well. Hopefully that provides good context.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, John. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today. Friendly reminder that this webinar is being recorded for you to watch again and to share with your colleagues on demand. Within just a few hours, you'll receive an email with the link to the recording. Also, please feel free to download the PDF document located in the handout section of this console for later reference. And then with that, today's webinar is now over, but we will remain open for about 2 minutes for you to leave remaining questions. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you in the next webinar.